Stop scrolling. What if the thing society warned men about most is secretly the source of their happiness? Right now, a quiet psychological shift is happening. Women are shocked. Friends are confused, and men, they're calmer than ever. Dark psychology explains why. For decades, men were trained to believe peace must be earned through sacrifice. Give more, apologize faster, shrink yourself. But here's the tension. The more a man abandons himself, the less respected he becomes. That contradiction breaks something inside him, slowly. So men started running an experiment. Not rebellion, not hatred, withdrawal. They stepped out of relationships that drained them and watched what happened next. Anxiety dropped. Focus returned. Sleep improved. The mind stabilized. That's not romance. That's neurochemistry. Here's the unsettling part. When a man stops seeking validation, the power dynamic flips. Silence becomes leverage. Solitude becomes strength. And the world doesn't know how to react yet. Here's where the confusion really starts. Society was built on one hidden assumption. Men are afraid of being alone. Dark psychology used that fear as a control switch. Shame it, mock it, weaponize it. You'll regret this. You'll die. Alone. Powerful words until they stopped working. Because something unexpected happens when men actually become alone. The fear vanishes. What replaces it is clarity. No constant emotional monitoring. No walking on verbal landmines. No invisible scorecards. The nervous system finally relaxes. And when that happens, something dangerous emerges: independence. A man who doesn't need emotional permission is hard to manipulate. His attention becomes selective. His tolerance drops. His standards rise. That's when surprise turns into frustration. Because the old scripts no longer apply, guilt no longer lands. Emotional pressure loses traction. But here's the twist most people miss. This isn't about avoiding relationships. It's about refusing asymmetry. And once a man tastes that balance, going back feels impossible. Now let's expose the hidden mechanism. In dark psychology, there's a rule. Whoever needs less controls more. For years, men were conditioned to need approval, harmony, and emotional stability from one source. That dependence quietly eroded their leverage. When a man stays single by choice, that leverage returns. Suddenly, he is no longer negotiating his identity. He's observing, listening, evaluating, and that shift is deeply unsettling to people used to emotional authority. Notice the pattern. When a man sets boundaries in a relationship, he's called cold. When he sets them alone, he's called lost. Both labels are attempts to pull him back into compliance. But the internal experience tells a different story. His mind sharpens. His time expands. His self-respect consolidates. And here's the micro cliffhanger. Once a man experiences this internal order, even love must compete with peace. And peace is winning. Here's where the psychological tension spikes. When men choose peace, the environment reacts. Not with concern, but with resistance. Dark psychology calls this homeostasis. Systems fight to restore the old balance. And a man stepping out of emotional servitude disrupts everything. Friends say he's changed. Ex-partners say he's emotionally unavailable. Society whispers that something must be wrong. But beneath the noise, something else is happening. His stress hormones drop. His decision-making improves. His identity solidifies. Why? Because he's no longer performing. No constant self-editing. No emotional debt. The brain loves consistency, and solitude provides it. Here's the unsettling reveal. Many relationships don't collapse because men leave. They collapse because men stop abandoning themselves. And when that happens, the illusion shatters. The real question isn't why men are happier single. It's why their happiness causes so much discomfort in others. And the answer goes deeper than anyone wants to admit. Let's go one layer deeper where it gets uncomfortable. Dark psychology reveals that many people don't miss the man, they miss the function he served, the emotional regulator, the financial stabilizer, the silent absorber of tension. When he leaves, the system loses its shock absorber. That's why his absence feels louder than his presence ever did. A single man with inner stability becomes a mirror. He reflects unresolved chaos back to those who relied on him to carry it. And mirrors make people angry, not because they're cruel, but because they're honest. Here's the quiet transformation most never notice. Alone, a man reconnects with instinct. He wakes without dread. He plans without negotiation. His nervous system stops bracing for impact. That's not loneliness. That's recovery. And once a man associates peace with freedom instead of isolation, the psychological trap snaps shut forever. Because now, any relationship must offer more than comfort. It must offer respect. And that changes everything. Now comes the most misunderstood phase. After peace settles in, something else awakens. Standards. Not demands, not arrogance. Standards rooted in self-respect. Dark psychology shows that once a man stabilizes alone, his tolerance for subtle disrespect drops to zero. He notices interruptions, dismissive tones, emotional double standards, things he once rationalized as normal. And here's the tension: he no longer argues about them. He simply disengages. That quiet refusal is terrifying to people used to emotional negotiation. This is why women are surprised. They expected anger, collapse, desperation. Instead, they see calm distance, focus, momentum, a man who doesn't chase. Clarity, because he already has it. But here's the cliffhanger. This phase creates a dangerous fork in the road. Either a relationship rises to meet his internal order, or it becomes unbearable to maintain. And most don't survive that comparison. Here's the paradox no one talks about. When a man becomes content alone, he actually becomes more attractive, but far less available. Dark psychology calls this non-attachment power. Desire increases, access decreases, and that imbalance drives confusion. People sense the shift immediately. His reactions slow down. His words become deliberate. He no longer over-explains. He no longer defends his boundaries. That silence, it's not emptiness. It's control. What's unsettling is this: he's not trying to impress anyone anymore. And the human brain is wired to chase what doesn't seek approval. This is why attention suddenly returns from places that once ignored him. But here's the internal conflict. If a man lets someone back in too easily, the peace collapses. If he stays guarded, he risks isolation again. So he pauses. He watches. He tests consistency over chemistry. And this is where most people fail without ever realizing why. Now we reach the moment of realization. The man understands something irreversible. Solitude isn't the goal, sovereignty is. Dark psychology teaches that the strongest position is not isolation, but choice without pressure. He sees how fear once guided him. Fear of being replaced, fear of being alone, fear of disapproval. And he recognizes how easily those fears were exploited. Not maliciously, but predictably. Here's the shift. He no longer asks, will this person leave? He asks, does this person add order or chaos? That single question filters everything: conversations, commitments, even attraction. This is why rushing no longer appeals to him. Time is his ally now. Silence is informative. Consistency is seductive. And here's the quiet cliffhanger. Once a man reaches this state, the wrong relationship doesn't hurt anymore. It simply feels unnecessary. That realization changes how he moves forever. Here's the final psychological reversal. When a man no longer fears losing someone, manipulation collapses instantly. Dark psychology depends on emotional hooks: guilt, urgency, scarcity. But none of those work on a man who is already complete. This is why pressure tactics intensify right before they fail. Sudden affection, sudden promises, sudden realizations, not love, lost response. The system senses withdrawal and tries to pull him back in, but he sees it now. He feels the difference between connection and control, between warmth and dependency, and once seen, it can't be unseen. What shocks people most is how quiet his exit is. No drama, no speeches, no revenge, just absence. And absence, when chosen calmly, is power. The deeper truth: he didn't become colder. He became precise. And that precision protects his peace at all costs. One part remains, the conclusion society never prepared for. This is the final truth. Men aren't happier staying single because they hate relationships. They're happier because they finally stopped betraying themselves to keep one. Dark psychology teaches that the moment a man reclaims authorship over his time, his energy, and his silence, his life reorganizes around him. Peace becomes the baseline. not a reward, not a negotiation. From that position, love is no longer a rescue mission. It's an invitation, and invitations can be declined without guilt. That's what shocks people most. A man who would rather be alone than disrespected cannot be controlled. Here's the twist society never planned for. When a man is whole on his own, he doesn't fear ending up alone in old age. He fears wasting his strongest years living half alive. So yes, women are surprised, not because men left, but because men remembered their worth. And once that happens, there is no going back.